Hey, I'm about at the point where I'm ready to just go ahead and crown Lupe as the most lyrical rapper of all time. Dude's been making this case for the past 20 years. Like, before there was a rap genius, you had entire websites dedicated to breaking down one Lupe Fiasco song. Lupe also been quietly making a case for having one of the better discographies in rap, which is saying a lot because things got a little murky around the time he dropped Lasers. Now, he turned it around since then, and he's been on an incredible run lately. What really stands out for him is he's an absolute master when it comes to concepts. And it sounds like he got a crazy one with this one. We got a concept album of if Amy Winehouse was a battle rapper, and I don't know if that means Smack URL rapper or Eminem 8 Mile. Lupe Fiasco, your real names were Salud type raps. But either way, I'm expecting to be dope. Let's get to it.
Come everybody out.
The smooth little sax. Hey, Lupe might be the only dude who was actually from the trenches who can pull off using the word neat.
Big eyes looking like skies and binoculars. Two nights live singing by the opera house, but not in it. Just by it, someone alongside it. A long silence. A strong, vibrant, meditative song of guidance designed to raise eyelids sublime and save the silence with one.
I like this imagery right here a lot, and he's also using an I alliteration, and it accents this climate two-syllable rhyme scheme he got going on.
Warm regards and age kindness for today's climate in the vein of gang violence meets the gang's demises and it bangs.
So he been describing Amy Winehouse performing in front of this or outside of this opera house, but now he's putting this lavish, upscale, rich people opera house within the contents of what's going around it. Was he's describing that gang violence right there? He'll probably dig deeper into that, but he also slid in a dope entendre in there. He said something like warm regards in the context of today's climate. So you got warm climate, and he said in vein of the gang violence. So vein is a double entendre because it's vein, like vein is meaningless, and then vein as a weather vane, which plays into warm and climate. The pin it early.
Top hats and coats, tuxedos and throats where the bow ties post. Folks look past the lower class blower of the notes and tell unspoke jokes as they approach what she'll never be inside.
Like I said, I don't know nothing about Amy Winehouse, but I'm guessing based on that verse, she a trench baby. But Lupe describing this dichotomy of you got this girl who came from a whole different environment, who didn't come from this lavish, upscale, wealthy lifestyle, performing for all these rich people. And then she's saying that even though they came to see her, she'll never be able to relate to them. She'll never be one of them. And they use particularly, she'll never get inside the house. So if you remember at the very beginning of the verse, they were saying that she was performing outside of the opera house, which I think is kind of metaphorical. That was a tough verse.
Come on through the unamplified, fantasized land of the soon-to-be fans of the samurai. Smile wide, got the panorama camera vibe. If you analyze, she's a one-woman gala, glamorized, just without the glamour or the gala ties. Man, I'm more alive with the jazz guys.
Nah, that line's tough. A little wordplay right there. The one-woman gala, and they glamorize her without the glamour or the gala ties. That directly play out the whole theme of that first verse, where she is spectacle to these rich folks, but she's really an outsider to them. And then I think Lupe also hinting at where the whole samurai concept come from, because in Western culture, we kind of glamorize samurais. Could also be alluding to the fact that samurais would kill themselves at the end, and Amy Winehouse, only thing I know about is she OD'd and died.
If you ask for a piece, freshly laugh for singing jazz in the streets, and the staff asked for police. I
don't know if Amy Winehouse particularly was a street performer, but he describing this huge contradiction where in the first verse she performing outside, basically on the street for a whole bunch of rich people because the context is it's at an opera house. But then on this verse, it's comparing to her to those street performers, the people who be on the street who had a little hat out asking for a tip. That's where you get the and the staff ask for police. You out there performing unauthorized in front of their building, so they ask for the police, and then people walking by ridiculing. I like that.
Little fag took a drag, took a tea.
Little what?
Read a book, took a bath, went to sleep. Really, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's a really tough song, dog. Lupe really in his bag on that one. First of all, I like the beat. It wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't nothing insane. But you had that smooth saxophone, which kind of play into some of the jazzier themes that he had in the lyrics. Nice drums that sound like they were from a breakbeat. And then two stellar verses from Lupe. You get these two really contrasting images in the first verse and the second verse. And now listen to the second verse. It kind of changed the context of the first verse a little bit. You can kind of read it a couple of different ways. You can kind of think of Amy Winehouse envisioning herself at the opera house in the first verse. Or you can think of that she made it and she's performing at this opera house, but she's just not connecting with the people who she's performing for. Or you can think of it as an extension of that second verse, but she's actually outside of the opera house with a unauthorized street performance, basically singing for tips. And then you got that second verse just describing how she's a starving artist. It also called her specifically, Amy Winehouse specifically, Samurai, which I think foreshadows a couple of things. Then Lupe does what he does with the rhyme structure, the rhyme schemes. Yeah, excellent song right there. This is Mumble Rap. Nah, I like this beat. That main sound that take out the bulk of the melody, that sound like something RZA would sample on a Jizza or a Wu-Tang album. Then I like that bass line under it.
Walked past an old man laying in the park. He was talking to himself, but he was saying something sharp. She found herself drawn to the vibe of his remarks. The resonations called her like blood to a shark, but reached up and grabbed her, sent the post off the chart. Said everything you do will now be in another art. Then
hey, what he described in that first verse, when a dude in a park mumbling nonsense, but it sound coherent, that's how hoteps get created. Them 5%ers be possessing niggas.
Maybe she just received a curse.
Hey, I second guessed myself when I said N-word right there. I had a dream last night that my boss started playing my videos in the conference room in front of my whole company with me just spraying the N-word like I had a Glock with a switch on it. Let me loosen up.
This feels more significant than that even. And that evening, she really felt the difference in fact speaking, had definitely changed in this design. Cause every time she went to chat, her mouth begat a rhyme. Now I got
That's what happened to like Black Thought, man. Black Thought, Lupe, Elzai, all them, man. They been possessed with this.
everything's a verse and everything's a line. A lyrical non-stop onslaught of rhymes. The hardcore roughneck bomb drop and fill you with a feeling that just make you wanna spit. Rap a couple bars, move your arms like this. Your hand is a gun and your arm is a clip. Let her rip, don't get hit by the split second. Smith and Wesson lips full of
I caught a little tinge of it, how I be talking with my hands all the time.
Like I don't do it for the check or the chip. I protect and predict what the next going to flip. I address then I rip, get respect then I dip. I don't live in the past, I finesse and forget.
You gonna trigger somebody PTSD playing that in a song. Folks with Galaxy don't even know what's going on right now. Hey, tough song, man. I think the content of it's pretty self-explanatory. Amy Winehouse walking around a park. Dude laying down in the park talking that supreme mathematics. She like, I ain't never heard this before. 7 equals a what? And then she get possessed and all of a sudden she turned to Rum Nitty. She turned to the illest battle rapper ever. I think that song's really a setup for the rest of the album. But I think the way that he brought that concept together, brought that story together was dope. You got a couple of contrasting things, some oxymorons in here. The name of the song is Mumble Raps. But battle rap is pretty much the opposite of mumble raps, especially modern day battle rap, where battle rappers are easily not even close to the best punchers on the planet. And then that talent was very far from mumble rap. You do have that chorus where he's kind of mumbling, but everything else points to that pure form of rap, battle rap. A lot of people refer to that as some of the purest form of rap. And then I like how the beat tied into everything. Like I said, the melody gave me Wu-Tang vibes, and then it had those jazzy vibes to it too, that jazzy bass line, that jazzy horn that came in for the chorus. And then Lupe's flow had a jazz-like feel where it kind of flowed and morphed over the course of the song. I think I'm rocking with that joint even more than mumble rap, just slightly. Both songs are fire. This is Cake. Now let me find out the possession has some side effects. She got battle rap skills and she got a butt now. Is that what they mean by Cake?
I've won many things I've done, but this one here,
I don't like these drums.
This one takes the cake.
Or the chorus.
Compliments on my accomplishments are only possible due to your involvement, volume, level, and confidence. The consequences stimulating your consciousness, activating the cognitive structures. I think all you motherfuckers and opposites stimulating the conference with conversational astonishment, consuming the comments and then vomiting up the vine and get it.
Hey, I like how he's using that con sign back to back right there. It sounds like he either fast forward to Amy Winehouse being successful and she's giving thanks to her fans, or he's describing her rocking a battle rap crowd. I think it's more so towards the first one. Either way, I think the imagery's dope. We're gonna keep listening.
Ominous as a monster is underneath your posturepedic, possibly in the closet. It's a necropolis, scary. How
it's ridiculous how you're using this O sound back to back. This alliteration right here.
Obstinate, ain't no domino in my dominance.
He did say he was gonna have some alliterated raps for us. This is very alliterated.
Janice Joplin droplets, it sound like the apocalypse mixed with Christopher Wallace's topics on top of obelisks. It's a kabbalist novelist inside of my esophagus. Rhyme is priming, it's optimist, and this shit tastes like chocolate candy.
Pure braggadocio on that last half of the verse. That's a really dope verse, mostly because of how he used that on sound from start to finish.
This shit taste like winter, chocolate cake for dinner, birthday cake for breakfast, slice it like a ninja. Authoring is August, wordplay is December. That mean my pen is in cinders and my deliverance shivers like Siberian area shippers. Slip on the slickest icicles, drip from the tip of.
This is fire. He said this tastes like winter, and then he said wordplay is December. So wordplay is December, wordplay is cold, and the next couple of lines was all wordplay with a cold theme. Shiver, Siberian, icicles, that's hard.
You a ship on the trip, don't hit on the tip of my glacier. Swim with the fish and flippers. I finished my pitches, this is what didn't get it, hitting the different differs.
And then he got this alliteration right here. This dude is spazzing.
Do it a
I'm about to go start walking around the park till I can start rapping.
You mentioning Louis do a dual identity, dueling enemies, do it.
And then he also got this samurai theme going on simultaneously. He alluded to it with those lines where he's talking about slicing the cake. And now he's talking about like a samurai sword fight.
Chemistry, can it be? They Googling endlessly. Even computers losing memory, bending mentally when they interface with the lyrical ability.
Alright, we 3 for 3. I will say that was my least favorite beat on here. You had this really, really distant organ. Sound like it had a whole bunch of reverb dripped on it, and then you had these drums that I didn't really like. I don't think the beat was necessarily bad. I definitely don't think it was good as the first two though. I will say I do like the fact that it sounds cohesive and that all 3 songs feature instruments that would be prominent in like a jazz club. I'm assuming that's probably because Amy Winehouse has some kind of jazz influence. Who don't have jazz influence? But the reason I rock with this song though is the lyricism is nuts. I think this is vintage Lupe where he just describing how he better than everyone. I guess since he's rapping from the perspective of Amy Winehouse, how she better than everybody, but the alliterations on the beginning and the end, OD, dog. He was getting in that bag where almost every syllable was rhyming, but instead of focusing on the word sounding the same at the end of the word, he was focusing more so on the vowel sound, which is what alliteration is, and forming a pattern with those vowel sounds. He did it with that on sound on the first verse and then the I sound, I'm sound in that second verse. Like I said, the content was braggadocio, but the second verse really stuck out to me how he used that shiver theme at the beginning of that second verse, and then he was weaving that samurai theme throughout. That's the type of lyricism that'll get you offers to be a rap professor at MIT, dog. This is Palaces. I like this beat. Ugh. I can already tell this is Soundwave just from the drums. All these songs might have been Soundwave now that I think about it, but this is definitely Soundwave. The only thing I don't like about this beat is, once again, the drums, man. This is a sound that he used on a lot of Lupe's earlier projects, and I think it's just outdated, but he's using that really compressed snare. I think it's a 909 snare. If you're a producer, correct me. I just think it's way better aesthetics with drums available. Not my favorite, but I like the melody a lot. I like that harrowing, that's an SAT vocabulary word, harrowing, vocal sample right there, and then the lush pianos under it.
Liquid fortresses made of stone, with just palaces made out of flesh and bone, waiting for our time to shine, to come on home.
I like that chorus.
Lord, please bless my castle of sand. Waiting on the battle sword, handle all in my hand. The war force is mortal with my door with demands. More important than the fortune that you poured in my pan.
That's tough. Take the beginning of this first verse and combine it with the chorus. He's building up this metaphor of a palace, but think them castles in medieval times that had like the big wall around it and had the moats, the cannons on it, all these mechanisms for defense so that somebody couldn't seize it. Seize? I think it's siege. Should have paid more attention in school. But he's using that as a metaphor to describe an artist becoming famous. So he was talking about God bless his castle of sand. So basically he's saying that his fortress, those defense ain't really made out of nothing. And he built this whole castle up with the money. So the sand was the money that he made the castle with. So he got a fortune and it built up this lifestyle that's not able to withstand a lot of the stuff that comes with money and presumably fame too.
Can't parkour over a part, you gotta march forth over your art. And for your fans, when you corner, gotta shorten your stance. Lessen your tails, Philly shell, don't orbit a dance.
Yeah, and then just use the context clues, because once again, I don't know nothing about Amy Winehouse. I mean, I know Nas made a song about her, for what that counts for, but I don't think that had nothing to do with this album. But basically, he's using all these defensive Philly shell, dance around your problems, parkour over your problems, and basically saying you can't do that. You're supposed to sit there and face your issues. The money's not going to be enough to fix those issues, alluding to some of those internal struggles, them demons she was fighting.
You hit a bell, then report to the band and do whatever that the chorus commands, and for the grand.
That's fire. Basically saying she a slave to her music.
Lord, please bless my mansion of cards. If ever challenged, let us camp in the car.
I like that Mansion of Cards line, playing into the House of Cards figure of speech, saying it's a lifestyle, a life, or something built on something as flimsy as cards, but saying it's mansion of cards. So alluding to the fortune that she has, and saying that that fortune isn't really built on nothing. It's not built on, you know, healthy relationships. It ain't built on self-esteem, whatever, fill in the blank.
Being anonymous don't grant you some dark. Even astronomers keep a camera on Mars. Satellites attract.
I like that line. Even if you're on Mars, you got people looking at you.
Fireworks are not a match for a star, and fire hurts, burns, blackens, and scars. Can still emerge, learned, attractive, and charred from out the ashes of galactic barrage. Yeah, it gets savage.
That's tough. So this is playing into that cameras on Mars line. It's a star galaxy theme, and then the star is a double entendre for actual star, and then a superstar, someone who's famous, a celebrity. So one, he's describing that, like, if you a star, you attract satellites. Is that even true? I don't know, but we rocking with it. So like basically saying if you're a star, you're going to attract all these people and probably issues too. And then them lines where he was like, fire hurts and you can still emerge from the, bro, I got to learn how to remember lines, but y'all know what lines I'm talking about. Basically, he's describing how an actual star, a star in the sky, is made through supernova. Basically, there's this big old combustion, explosion, and then a star forms from that. So he's using it as a metaphor for how celebrities are formed. You have all this bad stuff, these superstars that have troubling past or who get drug addictions, whatever their vice is, as they become stars. I think that whole image right there is awesome.
Yeah, Lord, please bless my palace of bones. My soul call my skeleton home, it's on the phone. Get a receiver back to Tyrone. We made a pact, nigga, I'm going back home. Yeah, pack my bag, stagger back to the zone. With a bag full of daggers I've thrown. I'm like my own masochist, slash my wrist with a poem. And when I'm gone, don't tamper with or sample my songs unless you strong.
Nah, that song's amazing. If I went nitpicky with my drums, that song would be perfect. The way that he built that song up with those first two verses, well, I already talked about it. He's just showing the vulnerability of these superstars, how that fame and fortune isn't enough to get them away from their problems, and it probably causes problems on top of that. But then that third verse, man, it started by playing in the chorus, where in the chorus they were saying, we think we fortresses made out of stone, but we just flesh and bones. Basically saying we think that we're super strong, especially given what we've accomplished and what we've earned. But we're really just weak, really just flesh and bones. And then you got that beat switch, and then it says right out the gate, Lord bless his palace of bones, where instead of focusing on this house of cards that he built, or I guess in this scenario it'll be she built, in the first couple of verses she's going directly back to her and talking directly about how weak she is, and this is directly alluding to her death. I like that line where she said, I got a bag full of daggers that I've thrown. So all the things that she did, that was habits she picked up, the destructive lifestyle that she started engaging in, describing that as destroying herself, and she's on this path where her starlight is about to burn out, meaning she's about to die. And then she said, once I do that, don't start messing with my music. Basically, don't juice world me. But yeah, that song is amazing, dog. I like that beat too. I like the beat change. That's an excellent song. I think that's my favorite song on the entire album. This is #1 Headband.
All that I want is a little bit of
That's what I be telling my wife.
that I want, all that I want.
Boy, this jazz production served him well.
Way of the warrior, wade in the waters, the water for crystal clear, lyrical smears, pissing.
Yo, I love how the drums just changed to the hi-hats right there.
We burning, we'll turn it back like thermostats. Burning like Mississippi and furnaces and thermoses and gas. Right after brats, right after that, we be coolin', jump back in the pool in.
Hey, that verse was dumb short, but I like a lot of the wordplay in there. I like that might flip that was in there. That whole burning word association was dope, and then he ended off with a Mississippi burning line, which played back into, he started the verse with a wade in the water line. So you got a Negro spiritual. Mississippi Burning was a ridiculous movie where the police was part of the Ku Klux Klan or some junk like that. But yeah, it was short, but it was tough.
Gather around you receptors, come and look inside of these walls like metal detectors. If they could talk, they would probably say assault them. It's just my thoughts goes off, even if it's off, but never caught.
I like that off wordplay.
How, yay. Trial, they know exactly just what I'll say. Gentrified different sides like Geminis. Energized like the Starship Enterprise. I'ma be the one.
My best guess on that verse is that the themes of that verse are echoing the themes on the first track, the title track. Was Amy really wishing she was in those spaces, mingling with the upper echelon with the rich folks? He had that Walsker Talk line, which got to be a reference to the Pimp a Butterfly. And a huge theme of that album was Kendrick adapting to his newfound fame. Those last couple of lines when they explain gentrification, real estate, all those things, it makes it seem like this part of the album was she's getting some of that success that she was longing for in that first track.
Karate and those Hirachis, only Sukas get that judo. How far your soul goes,
I like
so
all
far
the
so
martial arts flips right there. Oh my gosh.
Social turn Gary to Gold Coast, some gold post, some soldier to toll roads, a toll bro. I'm number one. Put the goal in the goal hunt, turn goal in the Voltron. I'm the
man. That Gohan 2-syllable rhyme scheme that he kept the same cadence for the whole time. Nuts, dog. I ain't in the anime at all, so this might not be the case, but it sounded like he had a couple of anime references to that, and that planted the line before when he got into a whole bunch of the Japanese martial arts.
number one headband wearer, walking like I talk it, never false it like Farrah. Headphones on the train, head banging to the stereo.
That Fawcett like Farrah line is dope. Farrah Fawcett.
For everyone, stereo feel like steroids to carry heavy shit to pick up what you could barely lift. Now you Larry Wheels, done.
I like that Larry Wheels line too. Larry Wheels, he a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, one of the two, where he can lift a whole bunch of weight. And then he said that stereo feel like steroids, but now you Larry Wheels. That was a good flip. I like that song sonically, but it do feel like a low coming off of Palaces, which I think was the best song on this album so far. The production was dope with that super jazzy beat. I like the keys. I like the horns in the chorus. I like how the vocals on that chorus sound. I don't actually love the chorus, like the actual content of the chorus, but we'll come back to that. I think Lupe had the lyrical acrobatics on display here. My issue with this song is it feels a little bit stagnant, narrative-wise, concept-wise, especially coming off of Palaces. In other songs, I kind of get the mix of this is Amy Winehouse if she was a battle rapper. I see how that comes into place, how Mumble Rap puts everything in context, how Samurai puts everything in context, how Palaces put everything in context. This felt like an extension of the song Cake, where it's really just the battle rap acrobatics. And I thought it was going somewhere with that second verse, but it didn't really get there. But that said, it did have some good wordplay on display. I think that flow that he got into on that third verse, that particular cadence where he had that 2-syllable rhyme scheme, that was dope. But I would say overall, I think this is the lightest song on here. Let's get into Bigfoot.
The colored stage, rage covering from begun number to number fades, made comforting out of cumbersome.
This
Lips lift water and bottle
cumbersome
on
rhyme
up to
scheme
them
is
front row,
sick.
the only row. The show sold nothing, then second
I like
responsibility
that.
feels just like a calling. The rest of the crowd must be stalling before they falling, or waiting on my break with no signatures on my cast.
He's been that whole verse describing her performing at the show with zero audience or just one row of audience, and that internal struggle of trying to do her best regardless and not paying attention to the crowd, trying to make it to a positive. But then that last line, just bring everything together, waiting for my break, waiting to get my chance to blow up with no signatures on my cast, like when you break your arm and they put that cast on it, but with no signatures on it. You remember when you was a kid and you broke your arm while your friends would sign your cast? I mean, I don't know, cause I ain't break no bones, cause you know, I'm just built different. I'm just kidding. Not really, but kinda. Fire line, fire verse.
What does a break take? What does it take place often? Is space and time important to have a portion? Is it a standard to differentiate between the offerings, or am I just church steps to an offering and I take whatever they tossing?
I like that offering church steps wordplay.
Normally these things that you would keep inside your head, but you realize you were singing this instead.
Yo, this gonna sound so bad. This song cool, but coming off Palaces and how destructive that song was, it was like when I was watching the movie 300 for the first time, I was like, all these fighting scenes cool, but get me to the scene where everybody die. I thought that's where this was headed when we got the Palaces. Like, get me to the drug overdose. But man, addiction, depression, anxiety, that make the best bars. But yeah, this song was cool. I don't think it has the emotional depth that Palaces has, but he was able to really capture a dope theme. It's a common theme, but in the context of the protagonist, what you want to call it, Samurai, is Amy Winehouse, trying to ascend in the music career, and then you got her going through that internal struggle of performing in front of the opposite of a sold out show, and then that second verse kind of centered around the struggles of being in that industry of record labels. And matter of fact, Lupe should know a lot about that, man. His deal with Atlantic was awful. The execs at Atlantic, they needed to have to testify in front of Congress for what they did to Lupe's career around that time of Lasers. But anyway, I think the beat was just cool. It wasn't the best beat on here, but I do think that all these jazz-inspired beats fit, one, the content really well, and just Lupe's style really well. But I'll put in the same category as number one, Headband, a song that's cool to me. This is Outside.
Post-battle love, daps and hugs, raps can plug up holes and less than holistic souls. Dove off a nudge and throwed off from shoves. However, one got from above to below. We're kicking and screaming and drug to the show. Were you addiction and calculation? Put up your share of the tontine. Plus 1,000 allowance payments. I'll be patient. Cal be judging quality like Australian airport. Souvenir shops can be a weird op to undertake a younger cake with
That's fire. Judging quality like Australian souvenir shop. Quality in a koala t-shirt.
A younger cake would avoid it altogether. Like a winter home, escaping fall of weather, but bought a sweater.
I'm assuming Kate might have another meaning in the samurai world. I don't know what it is, but a younger Kate might have did it. Might be a reference to track 3 on here.
In a series of daisy chain preferences that I filter things through, just like a checklist, and a much wiser bride pie with spouses on the top, such as
Look at that drum switch right there.
These metrics to the set list on the surface separates, but in the back of my mind they go together like a necklace. It's like the whack of the rhyme, the more I'm drawn like a Tex Avery baby to think maybe the genius in it is that it's not really good.
Yeah, I like that imagery right there. So basically Bigfoot and Outside are pretty much opposites of each other content wise. Where on Bigfoot, the samurai Amy was struggling with the musical career, and then on this song, the first verse was the protagonist winning a rap battle, getting paid some installment checks, and then this verse right here is fast forward into the future from the song Bigfoot. This time it's another performance in front of an audience, but she's going through a checklist, she's going through a set list, she got the whole process down to a T, and then you get the imagery of how meticulous Amy is with all those aspects of the show.
Animate the chains to the level of Mr. T, and I get his...
The animated chain line plays in the 2 previous lines. He had a line that was like, go together like the back of a necklace, like midway through the verse, and then when he was describing, thinking about the checklist, he said something about another chain. I'm forgetting the bar now, but they're playing the something at the very beginning of the verse.
Chains to the level of Mr. T, and I get his gangster boo like Memphis, Tennessee, huh?
R.I.P. to Gangsta Boo, but I like that line.
Wait for me outside, put him on hold, I'll be there in a minute.
I'm just not peeping how this chorus play into the song Samurai, the title track, where that whole song was about her performing outside of this concert venue, and then on this track she's presumably inside that concert venue telling whoever they show for or whatever to wait till she get outside of it. What a verse. It's a lot of song ago.
I didn't forget about you. That conversation just went longer than I expected. Erected all kinds of instructions to flesh it. Sometimes we send mixed messages like dyslexic texts and get socially indebted via manners to carry on long after what's needed got completed. We're trying to leave.
That's tough. He brought the fourth bar with that verse right there. You can take that verse as him talking to one, you, a song listener, and then also as him talking to the person who he's telling to wait in the chorus. But Lupe's really been a king of that, where he'll describe the song itself within the song. And he does it most notably on the song Mean and Vicious, which that's a deep cut right there. That's a mixtape cut. And he does a little bit on the song on Phonem on his last album.
I'll be there in a minute.
Hey, that song is super tough. With one more to go, that's been my favorite song on the second half of the album by a lot. This has been one of the most minimal beats on the whole album, but I love it. It's dope because it gives the song contrast and also this ominous feel, because content-wise, this should be the peak of the story. The samurai went from trying to get into these fancy venues on the very first song to actually being in the venue on this song, but the song just had this ominous, slow feel to it with that single, I don't know what wind instrument that that was, but it sounded dope, and then it had the bass line under it, and then the chorus keep telling you to wait just gives you that feeling that something bad's going to happen, which I'm sure alludes to the next song, which I would assume is going to be the downfall of Amy Winehouse or the Samurai, where the addiction gets a hold of her and wins. I love the imagery and how he detailed the success on those first two verses, and then he threw me for a loop with that third verse. That's a tough song. Let's go ahead and close this thing out with Til Eternity.
Yeah, live in the flesh. Beehive survived in a wreck. I carry knives like samurais on a quest that I drive in the chest like it's a ride in a treasure. I just want to commit crimes in Tibet, turn and say something divine, and then climb in a jet. Contrived but correct, besides and direct.
So you know going into this song, it got to be about self-destruction. He started on 10, already alluding to I'm a samurai carrying knives. He's saying that he drives in a chest, which presumably is his own chest or her own chest. Then he also had allusions to other eras in Japanese war history, where he described the Japanese kamikaze.
Just as brushes go hard in the paint, so we too don't bend like arms and restraints. I try and pin grace like Ken Shamrock, but it spits in my face like basically a mouth roll.
That's all that WWE talk. I like that Ken Shamrock line.
Things got stunning, he hit the ground running like outsoles. Now how about those outros? And those apocalyptic visions, bowls of rice with chopsticks in them vertically sitting.
That chopsticks sitting vertically line is dope because he has this Japanese theme throughout the whole album, but specifically on this song, and that's a sign of, I think, disrespect. It's something bad. Would you go with the whole theme of this song?
He who has the black classic mama, dad was the black man Soyama. Karate stands, put hands on the Brahma, do not cook. I remember the boiling pot from which the rock took. And you can either put it down or shot put.
The Brahma line plays into the Rock line. Rock in WWE, his nickname was the Brahma Bull. I guess that kind of play into the Ken Shamrock line from the verse before, loosely.
Before the charges, I was Bill of Rights and TED Talks meet the Tods before it all started. But you can't harvest before the hardship.
That Bill of Rights, bro, I didn't really touch on this, but he's had a lot of like case, court, trial, legal themes throughout this whole album. That's probably something I explore more on that second listen.
Yes, we will go far, smelling like sage smoke, even with those wild stallions way behind our stagecoach. It will behoove you to action Dr. Who's while salute to the game that you're used to. Yeah.
You know what? I was actually wrong about how I thought this album was going to end. I definitely thought that he was going to tie the whole narrative of the samurai being this struggling artist, this battle rapper, trying to make it, finally making it, and that whole lifestyle leading to destruction. It seemed like it was going that way with how the first verse was going, but then it just kind of completely shifted, and Lupe moved out of the perspective of the protagonist of the story and just started rapping from his own perspective. That third verse was pretty much purely biographical, so you can kind of take that to mean that that whole story of the samurai, instead of it being about Amy Winehouse, was about himself. And of course Lupe's story didn't end like how her story ended, but I will say I do think they left a little bit on the table, a few crumbs on the table that they could have scooped up with bringing this whole concept together. And just overall, that's probably my biggest issue that I have with this album. I just think there was a lot of potential with this album and the concept, and there was definitely areas where it was executed to perfection. The song Samurai, the song Palaces, but I do think there is also points where it probably could have been brought together a little bit cleaner, and some of it may just be the fact that Lupe is pretty complex and there's only so much you can get on first listen, but he also has concept albums that you can get instantly, like Drogas Wave. But that's pretty much my only big issue with this. Overall, I like this album a lot, borderline love it. I think this is another really great addition to Lupe's discography, which is really climbing up the list of top rap discographies. I'll say this is probably the best production on the second half of Lupe's career, and maybe outside of House, but House only had 4 songs. But I think the jazz production, it gave a level of cohesion, and I just think the beats individually were really good. I think the worst beats on this album were still pretty cool, and then Lupe's rapping is just great. The fact he was able to even bring this concept together, regardless if it got a little bit messy at times, the fact that he was able to have that concept and still have his wordplay in there, his rhyme structure in there, and then he add another level of dimension with the choruses, where I didn't love every single chorus on here, but they all added at least something to the song. And then while I did allude to the problems that I have with the concept, there are some areas where he executed it amazing. The opener Samurai and starting that conflict of trying to succeed in the industry, to do it from Amy Winehouse perspective instead of from a battle rapper's perspective on that opening track, I thought that was dope. And that gave way to the song Mumble Rap, where she gets these powers to become a battle battle rapper. That whole idea of Amy Winehouse being a battle rapper is dope, and the fact that you can apply all of that to Lupe himself, the fact that he was able to tie in some black struggle all through this album. I didn't even really touch on that, but that was also a really huge theme throughout this album. I think the song Palaces was the best song on here, and there were just multiple instances where the imagery was amazing. Overall, I think it's a really dope album. This is one of the better albums of the year. It's hard to say this is one of the better albums in Lupe's discography because it's so amazing, but it certainly adds to it. Overall, if I had to rate this, I think it's a 7.75 or 8 out of 10. If you want to check out one of my other reviews of a Lupe album, go ahead and check this one out, or just check this video out here.